Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to be here today, and I am with Alya Azar. She is a certified integrative nutrition health coach and a naturopath specializing in digestive health. She's had a 15-year corporate journey, which unfortunately sidelined her health, leading to poor dietary choices, less physical activity, heightened stress, and a skewed work-life balance. The consequences? Severe digestive issues that were both distressing and debilitating. She's decided to embark on a dynamic wellness journey that transformed her life. Now she's on a mission to guide you in your most precious possession, your health. So when she was feeling stuck, confused, overwhelmed, and anxious, and even lost is a common reaction to digestive diagnosis. She is now here to provide you with experience, strength, hope, and empowering you to lead a happier, healthier life despite your diagnosis. Having faced her own health challenges, including a 2008 diagnosis of ulcerative colitis, followed by gastritis and IBS in her later years, she can comprehend the impact these conditions have on the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of your life. And so she's here to help you transform your life. Welcome, Alya. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for this nice introduction and having me here. I'm also excited.
Yes, I've always, had a passion for the whole digestive, impact that we deal with on an everyday basis for our health wise. So I think that with your experience and everything, that it's so important for us to bring you here and talk a little bit about that. So just let me ask, you had the digestive issues that were both distressing and debilitating. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. As a child, I didn't really have a lot of digestive issues, but one thing I can say is that always used to have infections like a throat or ear infection, and I used to take a lot of antibiotics. And now, as we know, these antibiotics kill the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So I think I started to develop digestive issues when in my late 20s, when I started to try to have children, and it really got bad after I delivered my first child. I was around 30 years old, so that's around 18 years ago, where I was kind of ignoring these symptoms, thinking, the doctors would tell me it's IBS and things like that, but it really developed into an autoimmune disease that I was diagnosed with around 16 years ago, which is ulcerative colitis. And looking back, I do have some genetic background to that, where my grandmother had some colon issues. So, genetics play a role. And also the stress. I mean, I was working for corporate America for a number of years. And I think with all the stress, that didn't help. And, so I started experiencing a lot of symptoms, and from diarrhea to blood in the stool to a lot of abdominal pain, fatigue, nausea. Really, it was difficult for me to manage all this and have children and have a work. So I really, after I got my diagnosis, I said, okay, I have to change my life, and I have to, look into what I'm doing. And that's what started my journey, right? That's my personal story, where it was not, feasible for me to continue the lifestyle I had, traveling on business trips and having a lot of stress because of sales targets and all of the things that life, and I was very ambitious, and I thought I could do it all. And I thought, that I'm superwoman, but at the end of the day, my body was trying to tell me something, that I needed to put the brakes on. And that's how, I discovered the whole holistic and changed my lifestyle and got into the health coaching eventually, after I have done all these changes to help others, manage their digestive symptoms and diagnosis.
I love that story. I mean, that's a very powerful story because I think many of today's people are, in the workforce, in the corporate workforce or the medical fields or any of those, they're really dealing with a lot of these issues. And, like you said, dietary choices, they're not making very good ones. They're not having the physical activity that they should be having. They definitely have heightened stress. And you said something about ignoring your symptoms, which I think was a word that stood out to me. So I think that's what a lot of people do right now because we are in such this work-life imbalance. So talk a little bit about that, like, why were you ignoring them, or did you know that you were really, they were getting worse as you were not paying much attention to them, or what was the status behind that?
Well, first of all, I mean, I did go to a few doctors, which they couldn't really figure out what was going on. And then, sometimes they diagnose IBS when they go through some elimination. But I guess the main reason was because, I was so busy and I wasn't taking care and prioritizing my self-care. And I would say, yeah, this is, probably because of the stress but I didn't have the time and the commitment to actually make the changes. And, when you're younger, you're trying to manage the children, to try and bring food on the table, to try and do it all really, but at the expense of your health. So and then when it reached a point where, okay, I could not ignore these, and it was mainly when I was diagnosed at the end with the autoimmune disease, with all of these, terrible symptoms that come with the IBD, then it was really my body telling me, okay, now this is enough. You have to really prioritize. And I had made the decision to then demote myself in the company because I was a manager back then managing people. I'm like, okay, now this is the time to prioritize. And I became an individual contributor, which it was much less stress, and I also enjoyed it. So it was okay. But eventually I left corporate America and to focus on the health coaching so that I can dedicate my life to helping others, going through the same things.
And I think that's so very important. And because you've been through this, and you were talking before in your bio, it said something about feeling stuck and confused and overwhelmed and anxious, which all those feelings come up when you're dealing, especially I think with digestive issues, or sometimes like even back issues play a big part in that too. But you also mentioned that you feel lost as a common reaction to digestive diagnosis. Can you expand on that? How do people feel lost, or how did you maybe feel lost?
Yeah, so definitely I had these feelings because it's overwhelming when you get a diagnosis like that. You first don't know exactly what it is, and the doctors tell you you're going to live with this disease for life, and you're going to have to live with it. It's going to be flare and remission, and there is no cure for it. And actually, the doctors, they don't know the science doesn't really know exactly what causes the ulcerative colitis. And I'm sure the person who finds a cure to IBD is going to win a Nobel Prize, really. So it was overwhelming because, you're not sure what you have to do. Do you have to change your diet? Okay, what do I eat? And when do I eat? And what is working? And it's really a matter, I realize that it's a matter of trial and error because everybody is different. This bio individuality is what works for me could really not work for you. So I was lost and overwhelmed in the kind of food that I had. Also, as somebody who have chronic pain, because autoimmune can bring chronic pain and discomfort or bloating or fatigue, you start to develop sometimes anxiety from these symptoms and fear of, okay, how long is this going to last? Why am I having this? So in your head, you have a lot of fear that make you a little bit lost. What do I have to do? How do I control this anxiety? And then so that's another thing where the anxiety. The other thing is the self-care. Okay, how do I now am I going to take care? What is the most important thing I need to do? How do I reduce the stress that I'm having? What are the decisions I need to make? The goals that I need to change in my life, and the prioritizing different things, right? Because obviously I could not continue with this high stress, high level rat race that I was handling with young children. So making this, so that also made me overwhelmed. So it's really looking at all aspects of my life, like back then, and prioritizing what was the most important. So, for example, diet, I had to really work hard on fixing the diet, removing the processed food, removing sugar, removing gluten, which worked for me, and that's what I needed to do to get some digestive comfort as a first step, right? And then looking at the stress, and at some point I made the decision, okay, I'm going to leave the corporate world and do something I'm passionate about, and something that I like to do, and something that when I wake up in the morning I want to do it, and it's not just to get an income and be in an office selling products or whatever. So I had to look at my passion as well. So slowly, it takes time to make all these changes, these lifestyle changes. But I was guided on what I needed to do first, and how. And of course, it's with my team of medical healthcare professionals, having a dietitian and having a doctor and having whatever I needed to make these changes. And the more I made these changes, the more I saw the improvement, and it brought me back joy, and it reduced the anxiety, and made me more of a working with purpose and so on. I said, okay, all these things is working. I mean, I've always been yogi, and when I left the corporate world, I said, I'm going to get certified in yoga, because I know how important yoga is in terms of, mindfulness and the breathing and the flexibility. So I got certified, and, I teach some yoga postures for digestive issues. If you have bloating, for example, there are certain postures to do in yoga to relieve the digestive discomfort or the bloating and gas. So yeah, it was a long journey for me, and I'm just so grateful that I went through this journey to make all these changes in my life.
Yeah, so hard, but not hard.
I know, and it wasn't actually all easy. It wasn't all, rainbows. It's the ups and downs. I still get up to today digestive discomfort, but the nice thing now, I'm aware of it, and I know what to do about it, right? If I'm feeling I'm getting into a flare, then I know what I need to do. I know what works for my body, because I've had a lot of trial and error, and because my body is different than anyone else. I know myself better, and that's what I do through the coaching, is to help people identify what works best for them, to achieve a better version of themselves.
So tell me, who would be your ideal client?
So my ideal client is really people who are suffering with digestive health, right? So it could be different diagnoses like IBS, Crohn's, colitis, acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea. So people who are struggling with digestive health are my ideal clients. Anyone suffering, it really doesn't matter who it is, and I will work with them to understand really their pain points and their challenges. So, gut health, digestive health, people who really have chronic pain, who have some anxiety due to the pain, who have, who are confused about what to eat, what not to eat, who are have high level of stress, and they want to work on reducing their stress so that they have a calmer gut. uh, all these symptoms that come, but of course they have to have a diagnosis from a doctor, from a healthcare practitioner, and then they come with the diagnosis, and we can work together to improve things.
I love that because I mean, I know so many people with a lot of those symptoms on a daily basis. If somebody just has regular just digestive upset and they're not sure what it is, and it's not extreme like maybe some of the diseases are they able to have a consultation with you to see if you can work with them on just the basics of just cleaning up their diet and finding out what foods do actually cause those gas and bloating and all that stuff? Is that somebody you would also work with just as a consultation?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we'll do the dietary assessment and we'll do a health history to understand, all their history. I'll ask them also to keep a food diary. So we look into, their diet, and, I will do an assessment to really understand the background and the history of their health and what they're going through. And then we will identify things to work on that will improve their digestive comfort. So, I mean, so many people have bloating and gas. I think there was a study made that 70% of people will experience in the US bloating and gas at some point in their lives. And sometimes you have the distension where it's so uncomfortable, and you feel like you're pregnant 9 months, and it's and sometimes it's painful. So yeah, and we will look at the diet, definitely the dietary assessment, but it could also be other things. Maybe they are chewing their food very quickly, and maybe they chew gum that is allowing air to come in. Maybe they have something very stressful in their lives that can create, the gut. Maybe they have because of the gut and the brain axis, with the vagus nerve, it's very linked. And now the studies are showing that the gut is the second brain and it's linked. So if you have really, you worry a lot, or you have, so we work also on processing these emotions and on the mindset, on how to be more positive, for example. But processing these fears, to be aware of them, is the first step, right? And what are your thoughts now? Why are you having this anxiety? So I help them process them so they become more aware and have more clarity on what is going on inside our mind. So I also do a lot of this work, which I really enjoy. And we work on having more balanced thoughts, and what are some of the lies or dishonesties that our mind is giving us. Okay, like some people, and I've been doing that, before. Like if I have a stomach ache and I'm not feeling well, my mind is telling me, oh, it's stomach cancer. So that catastrophizing, jumping from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds, is very common with the people. So we work on having more balance. So we do a lot of gratitude practice, mindfulness, meditation, different kinds of meditation and mindfulness for different things, So yeah, it's all these techniques that I help people with, that I have used, some clients have used, and they do wonders.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I think the educational part on the stress and in the mindset and how these can actually trigger whatever is going on in our body and exacerbate them to a higher level. And if we could, also at times just take those things, the knowledge that we become aware, like you said first, and then put some, strategies in place to actually calm them, it really will take down the level of discomfort that they're having. But it's funny because it's not just the food that we're eating. It is the lifestyle, it is the environment, it is the thoughts that we're going through our mind, it is all of these things combined together. So I love that you have a well-rounded practice that you do and take people through so that they can understand that it is a compilation of all of these things. And so it's such an important thing that you do. And I had to deal with leaky gut myself years back, and that was mostly because I was eating the same foods over and over and over again because they were my staples. And I actually developed a sensitivity to some of those. So, because I had the knowledge behind me, I was able to actually support that and heal that to a good extent. So, how do you reach your clients?
Just
Because
on
so many
something that
people
you said,
out there.
yes, so just something back to you said on the eating the same things. You're absolutely right, because now the science is showing all the studies that we need to have to eat, in terms of vegetables and fruits, a rainbow of colors for these. So a study came out recently that the people have to eat at least 10 vegetables, in the span of 2 weeks, different ones, because each one will provide different antioxidants and nutrients and benefits. And yes, we tend to, if something is working, we'll just keep eating the same thing. But now it's the opposite, actually. So yeah, and some people, they are not aware of that. So I provide the education, but then we decide together, okay, what are the vegetables that you like, that you can eat? What is it that you enjoy? And so on. So
So you
it's
have
like
to work with the
investigate,
clients.
yes, to work with the clients and to investigate, to do some investigation, being curious about our body, tracking the symptoms, tracking how we feel, what are the symptoms, and then figuring out really what each person does. Because sometimes it could be overwhelming if you are alone and you're trying to figure all this out. So yeah, I just wanted
Let
to
me
add
bring
that.
something up that you just said because, tell me, you were in this situation before where so many things were going on and you thought, oh, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to track and I got to do all these things, that in itself can feel overwhelmed, but you got to a point where you actually started seeing results and people won't see that unless they decide that they're going to put these things in place, right? And they're going to make the effort to do that. But once you saw the results, it was like, okay, now I know, now I'm never turning back, right? Is
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. Like I haven't had, sugar per se in 8 years. And if you had told me this before, I would have said, no way I can give up sugar or, some processed food that I was eating. But now it's because I see all the benefits and how good I feel and how I really don't need this processed sugar. I'm like, yes, this is no brainer, of course. And I see the improvement that I had in my gut health. So yeah, it's amazing how simple lifestyle changes can really make a big difference in gut health. And the gut is responsible for 70% of the immune system. So it's like everything is there, so it will affect so many things, in terms of memory or sleeping better or having more energy and so on. So it's really important to stabilize and work on it. And as you said, the most important thing is it's people wanting to make the change. And usually, sometimes it happens when people are so desperate and they have very bad symptoms that they come and they really want to make the changes. So yeah, it's. It's definitely something that transforming people's lives, because this is ultimately what we are doing is transforming people's lives by implementing with them the right lifestyle and making the right changes that they want to do, and not only in food but in other things. Like something that has really worked for me is they have these meditations for gut hypnosis, right? So it's an app where it calms the nervous system, and you just listen to it 10-15 minutes a day, and it relaxes the gut when you feel you're a bit tense, and it's life changing. In the past, I used to just take medication, to fix these issues. But I found that 10-15 minute meditation just works as good, right? And
Isn't
it
that
does take
amazing?
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does take time, and that is amazing. So if somebody wanted to work with you, what kinds of programs do you have? Do you have a monthly program? Do you have a, 6 month what do you have for a program if somebody wanted to work with you?
Yeah, so I do offer an introduction in terms of to see if they want to work like a sample 3 session, minimum 3 session that they work with me. And then if they want to continue, then we have a 3 months, which we meet once every 2 weeks, okay, to give them time to make the changes. So a 3 months program. And then I have a 6 months program as well, for people who need to make more changes. And the thing is, one thing leads to the other. So, for example, people fix their diet, right? And now they're like, okay, I'm so stressed. I'm in the wrong job. I need to focus on that, on my career now, and make the changes. Then they want to move into finances, which stresses them out a lot because it causes a lot of pain. So we look at their so usually it moves into, but yeah, the main ones that I see a lot is food related and nutrition and diet and stress reduction, and using all the techniques I talked about, like meditation, mindfulness, and all of these things. And so yeah, I worked with a client recently about setting a morning routine, right? Because she used to wake up and just go to work, and after preparing the kids, so her beginning of the morning was not a relaxed one. So we worked on setting up a morning routine, and now she's more relaxed. She does 10 minutes of meditation. She takes the time to chew her food and her breakfast very carefully, very slowly. She drinks water before, she takes her supplements. She has this now, it's like a ritual that she cannot live without. Also, stretching in the morning, she does a bit of praying. So that has changed her life. If it's only 1 hour that she wakes up earlier than before, and she feels more grounded, she does a gratitude journal. She looks at her. She asks herself how she's feeling. Is she resentful at something? Does she have a fear? So doing the inner work that affects everything, is very important. So yeah.
Yeah, I do believe that a morning routine can change somebody's life, and no matter what situation they're in and
Yeah.
what health challenges they're having. So I know that you have a freebie on your website. It's called 5 Ways to Get Rid of Belly Bloat. So people can go to your website, which is Alya, Alya, alyawellness.com, and check out your programs, and actually even, maybe set up a call with you to actually get that consultation to see if it might be, a good fit for them to work with you and really help their digestive issues. So I really just want to thank you today for coming on here and sharing your story and your, how you want to help people, and, just really putting that information out there and giving some strategies and tips where people can pick that up. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for having me. And yes, I look forward to working with more people, helping more people to, reduce their pain and their overwhelm, and, to live a happier life. And yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome. There's just so many strategies that you mentioned that could just, awareness of, and just knowing what some of these things mean is a huge help to somebody that's in a place where they just feel that overwhelmed and lost, and, anxiety and stuff. So thank you so much.
Yes,
And
and they feel, sorry, the last thing I want to say is they feel somebody is holding their hand, somebody is helping them, they are not alone. Because having autoimmune disease, you can feel very isolated and lonely, and nobody understands. And having faced all these issues, I can also give them the comforting and the and the hope, that you can live a healthy life despite your diagnosis, and you can be okay. So thanks again for having me.
thank you. Thank you.
Take care.